What's up? What's up, everybody? Friday. Happy live stream day. Let's get some people in here, and we will start Friday's live stream Q&A for you. So if you guys don't know who I am a co-founder here at Carbon Diet Coach, and today I'm going to answer your questions about the app. Any questions you guys have about nutrition, fitness in general, just put them in the comments or in the question box thing on Instagram, and I will be sure to answer them. We do these live streams every Friday, whether it's me, Lane, Holly, or all three of us. Every Friday we hop on here, answer your guys' questions. Yo, what's poppin'? How's it going? Can we access this app in India? I believe it's available in your app store, but in terms of the food database, there are not going to be Indian-specific foods, regional-specific foods in the database, but that doesn't mean that you can't use the coach portion of the app and then use a different app to track your diet. So we built the app so that it's kind of separate. The tracker and the coach are kind of separate. We're first and foremost a coaching app, and then we offer the food tracker as kind of a value add-on, so that it makes it a little bit easier for you to track your diet. But yeah, you can certainly use the coach without the tracker if your country doesn't have foods in our database. So great question. Shannon's got a question here from Facebook. So as long as I adjust the planner for calories and macros, don't match up, does it matter? Shannon, the most important thing is calories. Now, I think what you're asking is, like, if you, let's say you have more carbs and your fat kind of stays the same, but your total calories are still hit on that day. Obviously, that's going to be most important. I would make that your goal. But if you can also hit the protein and carbs on each day, that would be ideal. But I know, life comes up. Sometimes you can't. And I think it's totally fine to, in that case, aim for the calories. Now, you can do that, but let's say you aren't making the progress that you want, then you maybe want to tighten things up a little bit and actually hit the carbs and fats as well. So you don't have to always be super crazy strict if you're okay with not necessarily getting exactly the progress that you're after. If you're more just okay with not really being super strict with things, then it'll be fine to go with that approach. So it's all up to you. Great question, though. What do you think is a comfortable deficit to start at? I think a deficit that has you losing anywhere from 0.4% of your weight up to 0.8. I think that's a pretty comfortable deficit. It's not too large where you are going to be really hungry all the time, but it's also not so slow that you don't see weekly progress. So I think that is also going to dictate where your calories are at. So I think first and foremost, think about it as the goal rate of loss you're aiming for, and then that's going to dictate where your calories are at. And if you find that it's not comfortable for you, then you're going to have to slow the rate down. If you slow the rate down, your calories will be able to be a little bit higher. You might not get as fast of progress as you want, but it'll also be more comfortable. Now, there is a point where it's you can go so slow with it that you basically aren't making any progress. So there's kind of this threshold you need to have with a deficit. And if you don't have that kind of threshold, then you might just be slowing down your metabolism instead of actually losing weight and body fat that you want to lose. So good question. Let's see. Post-dieting phase, reverse or go to maintenance, and should I continue cardio or taper down? So post-dieting, it all depends on how long the diet is, where your current maintenance calories are at, and where you find sustainable for you. So, but generally speaking, most times you're going to want to reverse diet out of a diet, and that'll just help kind of bring your metabolism back to more normal levels. And so it's usually a good idea to go to reverse right after you're done dieting. if you're happy with your current maintenance calories and you find those sustainable, you could just go to maintenance and hang out there. So you don't have to reverse, but most of the time it makes sense. And should you continue cardio or taper it down? I am of the opinion that cardio should be used as a tool for calorie burn, for fat loss. So I would taper it down, especially if you're doing excessive amounts. So if you're doing daily cardio, like I would definitely taper that back as you start a reverse and throughout the reverse diet process. If you are just doing a few cardio sessions a week, for maybe a half hour or something like that, you're fine keeping that in, especially if your overall activity level is pretty inactive. You may want to also keep that cardio in if your lifestyle is very inactive. Let's say you have a desk job, you're very sedentary, then still keeping in some cardio to maintain that cardiovascular fitness, I think, is a good idea. Great question. Let's see if we got any on Facebook. We got Facebook, YouTube, so let's see. If I load on creatine and gain weight, but keep compliant on calories and activity, will the app decrease my calories for the next week? So Matthew, it likely will, and that is because it's thinking that you are actually in a big surplus because of the weight you're gaining from creatine. So there's no way for the app to know that that weight gain is from creatine, water weight, or if it's actually body fat. So doing something extreme as like loading creatine is going to throw things off, and I wouldn't really recommend doing it that way. I would actually probably just take 3 to 5 grams a day for a month, and over that month you're going to be fully saturated. So I don't really see the benefit of loading creatine, especially if you're using Carbon Diet Coach, because it is going to throw off the system. And if you do the slow kind of gradual load where you're taking more of a maintenance dose, it's likely not going to really affect the coach if you do it that way. So that's how I would handle that. Let's see here. Instagram. When is the next release for Carbon? Very soon. So we are testing internally. We're doing some internal testing on a release candidate that we're going to release hopefully in the short term. There are a few cool things in there. I don't want to really get into the specifics of what's coming, but there is a new release coming soon. And yeah, we're constantly working behind the scenes to improve things. And we want to get releases out as soon as we can to benefit you guys. Great question. Let's see. Mako is asking on YouTube, what's your opinion on using myo-reps as a main training modality for a few weeks? Was thinking 3 times a week, 2 exercises per muscle group using myo-reps. Will I die? First off, you will not die, but I don't think using myo-reps as your main training modality, I don't think that's a good approach. I think myo-reps has its benefits, I think, but I think it's more beneficial to do that after, like more towards the end of your workout, I would say, when you are already somewhat fatigued. I think using myo-reps is a good approach. I wouldn't do it as your main training modality, but I mean, you never know if you're going to like it or not. So I think just experiment. If you're just going to do it for a short period of time, it doesn't hurt to try new training modalities. I also wouldn't like flip-flops so much on my training. So maybe just give it a try for a little bit, but then maybe get back to more of a normal kind of bread and butter training program that you're going to make better long-term progress on. I haven't done myo-reps in like many years, and I'd never actually have done them consistently either. It was always something that I maybe threw in here and there sometimes on a training cycle, but it's never something that I've done super consistently. Let's see. Great questions today, guys. If you guys are enjoying this live stream, be sure to give it some love. Hearts on Instagram. I think it's the double tap or whatever on the live on Instagram. on Facebook, YouTube, give us hearts, give us thumbs up. That helps get this out there and get this information to more people. All right. Hello, just starting using Carbon. When should I put compliant in the check-in? I'm doing a reverse. So compliant means that you hit the macro targets that the coach is providing you. So if you are hitting those macro targets on average for the week, you're considered compliant. And when you check in, it sounds like you may have not checked in yet with the app, you're new to the app. When you check in, it's going to, if you've tracked all the food in your diary, it's going to pull that information and tell you if you are compliant or not. It'll say, it looks like you were compliant, good job. There'll be like a comparison of your tracked and then your goal macros. And if they're green, especially on the macros, if your protein, carbs, and fats are green, that means that you are compliant, and then you can mark compliant. Everybody has kind of a different definition of what they consider compliant, but that is our Carbon definition of compliant. If all your protein, carbs, and fats are green on that screen. But like I said, everybody has a different definition, and you can do whatever you want with the app. The app is a tool that is helping you reach your goal. If you want to consider just hitting your calories compliant, you can certainly do that. But just be aware, if you're not making the progress that you want, you might want to tighten up what you consider compliant. Okay, let's see here. I have to move this here. Okay. Okay. Adam Miller on YouTube is asking, what fat loss / diet break ratio would you recommend for someone around 25% body fat? I was thinking 6 weeks on, 1 to 2 weeks off, and back on. Some people really like diet breaks, and they do have their benefits. But personally, I don't really do the diet break route. I like to more or less get in and get out of each phase, and then focus, put all my attention into one phase and then switch gears. So I don't personally use diet breaks. It can be a strategy that can help some people stay more compliant. If it's a strategy that helps you stay compliant over the long term, I'd say it's beneficial. And the ratio, there's many different ratios out there. Some people do 2 weeks to dieting, 1 week diet break. And when I say diet break, that also means like a week at maintenance. That doesn't mean you're off the diet and just eating whatever you want. A diet break is maintenance calories. So there still needs to be restraint, and you still need to be compliant during these diet break weeks. But with that said, there's a lot of ratios. Often people are dieting for, I would say, anywhere from maybe 2 to 4 weeks, and then they take usually a 1 week diet break. That's a normal kind of ratio that a lot of people do. But I like taking more reactive type diet breaks. So if you feel like you are getting run down, if you have a hard time sticking to the diet because the calories seem like they're too low, you're just kind of feeling blah about everything. At that point, I think maybe it does make sense to do a week at maintenance, kind of regroup, let your mind get right again, and get back into a deficit. I think the more reactive type approach to diet breaks is better for most people, as opposed to trying to plan out, okay, these are the weeks I'm dieting, and then this is the week I'm taking a diet break. I think being more reactive is more beneficial. But to each their own. And with that said, over the long term, a diet break is not going to necessarily be any better. It's just going to push out. It's just going to make, so the benefits are it would potentially be easier to stick to over the long term, but the downside is it really extends the amount of time that you need to diet to reach your goal. So if you're the person that mentally that jives well with, then maybe do a diet break. That was kind of a long-winded answer to your question. Hopefully I answered it well. So what are weekly check-ins like, and are they done with an RD? So it sounds like you have not used the app before, and you're just wondering, so basically, you're not checking into an actual person or anything like that. We built a coaching algorithm that will look at all of your data and make the macro adjustments that need to happen to get you to progress at the rate that you have set. So it's actually a coaching algorithm that myself, Lane, and Holly have developed to coach people. Now, this is based on many years of coaching experience and many clients. This is kind of our brain in the app, and so you're not having that one-on-one with a person. But if you're the type of person that just needs a plan, just needs to know what to do, and then you can go execute, Carbon is amazing. If you need more personalized one-on-one kind of interaction with a coach, you're not going to find that with Carbon, and you may want to consider hiring an RD or hiring a online coach or something like that. Why is the protein so high even for someone with smaller measurements overall? Protein is based on your lean body mass in Carbon. So if you put in an inaccurate body fat percentage, it will give you an inaccurate protein target. So if your body fat percentage is accurate in the app, the target range of protein is not necessarily so high. There's a big range that you can adjust it in. So within that range, adjust it to your preference, and then don't worry about it anymore. So I would first make sure that you have the right body fat percentage entered into the app, and then adjust that protein slider to where you find sustainable for you. All right, let's see here. What is the ideal amount of allowable weight gain per week for reverse dieting? So I would put whatever you're comfortable with possibly gaining, and the higher you allow the app to let you gain, the quicker your metabolism is probably going to speed up. The lower the amount of gain, it might take a little bit longer to get your metabolism speeding up, but you're also not risking adding too much body fat in the process. So it's kind of like a preference thing. Like, there isn't really an ideal amount for most people. I think maybe just leaving it at the default if you're not sure exactly where you want to be on that spectrum. But if I want to, I really want to keep weight gain and body fat gain to a minimum while I'm reverse dieting, then I would take it all the way to the left, all the way to the lowest amount, and then that will help you stay a little bit leaner as you're reverse dieting. I personally like going all the way to the bottom with it for a reverse diet, but some people don't really want to drag out a reverse diet for a really long time, so then maybe go a little bit more towards the middle. All right. Let's see, I can get back on Facebook and YouTube. I've been answering quite a few on Instagram. Okay, Lerone, I see it. Just realized I'm eating close to maintenance for 3 weeks after my big weight drop, after my diet break. Why is that my rate of fat loss is 2 pounds per week? So why? I think you're asking why the app is having you eat close to maintenance now that you're back in a fat loss phase. My guess is your diet break week might have shot up your estimated maintenance, and then when you switched back to fat loss, maybe it kept your calories a little bit higher. And that's kind of the only downside to currently how we have the app. If you do like regular diet breaks, you are switching your goal quite often, and when you switch your goal, it's going off of your estimated maintenance. So if that estimated maintenance is not necessarily super accurate, it might not give you where you think you need to be in terms of calories. So most of the time, I think it makes sense to first, don't start diet breaks like right away when you start using the app, because you don't have a lot of check-ins for the app to really get a good understanding of where your maintenance calories are at. The longer you use the app, the more information it has, the better it is at estimating where your maintenance is. And so maybe start off, just doing straight dieting, and then after you have a bunch of check-ins in the app, then maybe introduce some diet breaks or something like that. But we're talking about ways to, to make all this better and more smooth in terms of switching diet breaks and that kind of thing. But it's going to take a little bit of time for us to find the best approach. All right. How do you know when to finish a reverse? Well, one way is the app will suggest to you, or it will let you know when it appears your metabolism is in a good place. So that's one way of knowing when you could probably just stop reverse dieting. A lot of people get that message and they are still able to continue to reverse diet without gaining much weight. And so that message in the app is really just more of a informative message. It's not really saying like you have to change your goal now because your metabolism's here. Like, you can certainly ride out a reverse diet for as long as you want. And I usually recommend doing that, like seeing how high you can get your calories and your maintenance calories before you start gaining weight and body fat, I think is usually a good approach to try to maximize things. So as long as you are, checking in each week and you are not gaining more weight than you want, I would keep reverse dieting. All right. All right, let's see, Instagram. This kind of goes with that one. Is there a recommended duration to stay on reverse diet before switching to maintenance? It depends on your body, man. It's just I would reverse diet for as long as you are able to and you are okay with your current body composition. All right. Okay, what happens in the app when you check in early? How it works. So checking in early is what it does is, let's say you check in. So you're allowed to check in up to 2 days early for a check-in. So that means that check-in period is only going to be 5 days. And what we do with the app is we only evaluate your progress based on 5 days, but we extrapolate it to what that would look like in the whole week. So no matter how many days you have in between your check-ins, we're kind of looking at that and evaluating that in the lens of what would that be over a normal check-in period. So you can check in early and it's just going to look at different data, but the outcome should still be very much the same because it's kind of forecasting what that progress would be over 7 days. And so what are the reasons for checking in early? Well, if you have, let's say you have a trip planned or something and you're going to miss your normal check-in day, so then it makes sense to check in early, get your adjustments if you need them, and then you won't need to worry about checking in on your normal check-in day. So check-in early is basically just a convenience thing for you if you can't check in on your normal check-in day. And also going the opposite direction, let's say you have more days than, let's say you check in late. If you check in anywhere from 8 days to up to 14 days, the app is going to do the same thing, but in the opposite direction. So it's going to look at 8 days and then see what your 7-day kind of progress rate is over that course. If it's 14, it's going to look at, okay, what would the weekly progress rate be, and then make adjustments based on that. If you're over 14 days, so if you're 15 days since your last check-in, really that's kind of too long in between check-ins in our opinion to really get a good gauge on what's happening. And in that case, we really just recommend getting back on track with your current macros, continuing again, and then making sure you check in sooner. So with the coach, we don't want to see you checking in more than 2 weeks in between your check-ins. So as long as you're anywhere in between the range of 5 days to 14 days, the app is going to evaluate that progress and make adjustments if needed. All right, let's see. Let's see. How to taper off cardio? Would you do this while app is set to reverse? So Jessica, the easiest way to taper off cardio is to just maybe drop like 30 minutes a week or something like that. That is slow enough that it's not going to like drastically kind of throw the app off. And also it's a good idea to taper it off slowly, because what you don't really want huge fluctuations in your weekly average activity levels. And same thing with like diet. Like, you don't want huge fluctuations in your diet. You also don't want huge fluctuations in your activity level or cardio calorie burn type things. So, but tapering off cardio when you go to reverse is probably a good idea if you are doing a lot of cardio. So if you're doing like daily cardio or something like that, it's a good idea to taper that off. And like I said, I recommend tapering it off slowly over the course of many weeks, because then your body adapts to that, and also the app will be able to adapt to that much better as well. All right. Best recommendation for adding a refeed day during a cutting phase. Use the calorie planner. So if you want to have a higher calorie day, go into the calorie planner, tap on the day, take the slider, move it up to where you want the calories to be at, and then there you go. There's your refeed day. And with refeeding, typically refeeding is done. Typically refeeding, you account for those calories. So that's why the calorie planner will keep your average macros the same, so that you're still going to progress at the rate that you have set if you're hitting the average macros, but you're also getting a higher calorie day, so that you can maybe put that on your hardest workout day, or you like to go out to restaurants on Saturday, so you want that to be kind of your refeed day. But yeah, use the calorie planner for that. What are your thoughts on carb cycling? I personally don't like it and don't do it just because it's more work, and I like to make things dead simple. I like to have my macros be the same every day, because then I can eat the same meals every day for like a longer period of time. So I don't have to even track or think about it. Like, I can just copy my days over day to day if I'm eating the same food. So I'll just copy the same meals over. And it just makes it so much easier to not carb cycle because there's a lot less thought involved. Now, carb cycling, it could have its benefits if let's say your calories are a little bit lower and you have some workout days where they're really tough. Like, maybe putting a little bit more carbs on those days, it might be a good idea. But there's a fine line, because you're taking your calories and carbs low on some days, and then that's giving you higher on other days. Now, when you go low on some, higher on others, I feel like you're so those days are going to be really poor performance, probably with low carbs, yet the higher days are going to be a little bit higher performance. I kind of like to be middle of the road, where every day is not necessarily too low or too high. So I'm not a huge fan of carb cycling personally, but some people like it. Some people find benefits in it. So I'm not saying don't do it, but I'd experiment with it. But first and foremost, most important thing is going to be hitting your average calorie needs, your protein needs, carbs, fats, that type of thing. So I would experiment with it in the confines of, average macros, and see if you find benefit in it. Let's see. Is the app capable of reversing from a fat loss phase to maintenance? So Tina, I'm thinking that you are asking, can the app start at your fat loss macros and then increase you to maintenance from there? And no, it can't, because that's not what we consider a reverse diet. A reverse diet is going to be starting out at your estimated maintenance, so where you currently can maintain your body weight. What we want to do is get you out of that deficit. That's the main goal of a reverse diet, is get out of the deficit and start feeling normal again, start recovering from that deficit. Now, if you just drag it out longer and still are in a deficit, but it's making that deficit smaller and smaller and smaller, like you're only dragging out the time. I think it makes better sense to just switch to estimated maintenance, which reverse dieting does, and then work up from there. And typically, I think a lot of people misunderstand, like, your pre-diet maintenance is going to be a lot higher than your post-diet maintenance. So a lot of the times when you're at the end of a fat loss phase, your calories are not too much lower than your estimated new maintenance, your actual maintenance, because towards the end of the diet, you notice you start losing. It's a lot harder to lose weight. The rate of loss slows down. So you're getting closer and closer to that actual maintenance value that you have. So when you switch over to reverse, you're only going up a little bit, and then you're building from there. So yeah, there is that answer. Any idea when calorie rounding will be fixed for tracking? Jason, it should be pretty soon, but I don't want to give any promises on when. But what Jason is asking about is having the calories that you have tracked for the day match up with the math of your macros. So like multiplying protein by 4, carbs by 4, and fat by 9. And then if you were able to do that, then you're able to zero out all the numbers, your calories, protein, carbs, and fats. It also introduces the option to then only track calories and protein and have it be super accurate still. Because in its current state, if you were to track calories and protein, you are still having issues with a lot of that rounding and the calorie discrepancy that are on food labels. So right now, if you were tracking calories and protein, it's not going to be super accurate. But when we do make this change, you can confidently track calories and protein and use the coach that way. But it should be pretty soon. We are hopefully wrapping up the final pieces of that in the next few weeks, but I don't know when we're going to exactly release it. Everything needs to be tested and that kind of thing. So thanks for the question. All right, back to Instagram. Let's see here. Will there ever be function to add fiber manually? Probably not, because quick add in the app is to add macros. Quickly add the macros that you're eating. If you also know the fiber that you're eating, like enough about that food to create a custom food. Like if you want to have fiber, add fiber, just create a custom food and use it that way. So I would recommend doing that if you want to add fiber. All right. Let's see here. At what point in a fat loss phase will metabolic adaptation become significant? After how many weeks of cutting? I'm not smart enough to know the exact answer here, but I would say it is a good amount of time in a deficit. If you're in a short-term kind of mini cut scenario where you're dieting for 4 to 6 weeks or something like that, you're not going to have a ton of metabolic adaptation. You will certainly have some, but you see a lot more with longer-term dieting, and especially longer-term and extreme. So there's kind of two, I guess, points here is like, the rate at which you're losing and also the duration of the diet. So they're kind of both at play here. And I think a normal diet, you are definitely going to have some metabolic adaptation. It's completely normal. You can't avoid having any metabolic adaptation. The best thing to do, though, is to try to undo that metabolic adaptation through a process called reverse dieting. that's why we offer that goal in carbon. But yeah, it's going to have to be many weeks. I think, 4 to 6 weeks is usually safe to not have too much metabolic adaptation. Once you start getting above that in terms of weeks, I think you're going to start seeing more increases in the adaptation. All right. As somebody that is underweight, I have very low appetite. What would you recommend I do to increase my appetite, to be able to eat more food, to be in a calorie surplus, to gain weight easier? So Daniel, if you're struggling to eat enough food to get enough calories to gain weight, I would look at your food choices. I think you are maybe choosing very filling foods, and that's causing you to have a low appetite. Maybe you need to choose some more less filling foods so that you can get more calories in more easily. A really easy way to get a lot of calories in your diet is just to add like olive oil to all of your meals. You could just throw in a tablespoon or so to every single meal that you eat, and that will be an easy way to add a bunch of calories because fat is 9 calories per gram. So it's a lot easier to get calories in with fat. So find ways to get more fat in your diet, and maybe shifting the diet preference more towards fat as opposed to carbs might help you be able to fit in the food that you need to gain weight easier. So yeah, look at the food choices you have and try to find easy ways to bump up the calories by these methods. All right. What's the best way to calculate body fat? The best way is to actually cut out all the fat and weigh it, and then you know exactly how much, but you would have to be dead to do that. So really there's no best way. Every way is kind of just an estimation of your body fat. Now there's certainly better ways, but it's also not better for everybody. So there's not this one way that's like the magic way to test body fat that it's going to be the most accurate for everybody. But generally speaking, there are better methods like underwater weighing, for example, has been shown to be pretty accurate. DEXA is also pretty good. BODPOD, a little less, I think, beneficial. There's kind of, I guess, more of a spectrum of like which can you be a little bit more confident in the number, but all these methods have ways that they can be thrown off quite a bit. Like for example, DEXA, if you are dehydrated or if you are retaining water, it's going to drastically change what number it spits out in terms of body fat, but your body fat didn't change. You just are more hydrated or less hydrated. So with all of these methods, it's very important to be consistent with the method that you're doing and consistent with the conditions that you're testing yourself under. So let's say you go get a DEXA scan. Let's say you get it first thing in the morning fasted. The next time that you go get it, you want to be in the same conditions, first thing in the morning fasted. And also if the rest of your schedule is the same, that's even more beneficial as well. So as long as you're consistent with all these things, all these other variables, and you get tested, you're going to be able to be confident that the change in the trend of that body fat is accurate. You can't necessarily be confident that the actual body fat number is super accurate, but really I recommend body fat measurements as more of a way to monitor the trend over time. So just kind of pick a method that you find that you can do consistently under the same conditions and just stick with it, and then use that to evaluate your trend over time. Just started using the app. I love it. Thank you so much, Amanda. Is there an estimated time frame before lower macros again for a long deficit? So I'm guessing you may be reverse dieting right now and you're wondering, is there a good time frame to switch to fat loss? it just depends on where your current metabolism's at. If your maintenance calories are at a place that you are content with and you are good dropping into a deficit from there, you can move over to doing a fat loss phase. Now, if it's going to be a long deficit, you already are planning a long deficit, you may want to go at it a little bit slower so that you don't have you don't experience even more metabolic adaptation. So if you're going long, you want to be a little bit slower rate of fat loss. If you're going fast, you probably want to keep that deficit to a shorter period of time. But for a long deficit, I would go slower. And yeah, just if your maintenance calories are in a place where you're happy cutting from there, I'd say now is the time to do a long deficit. Let's see. Guys, if you guys have questions, be sure to put them in the comments or in the question box thing. I'm trying to get to all of these. These are amazing questions you guys are answering or asking. Appreciate everybody tuning in today and asking all these great questions. Hopefully you're finding this live stream helpful. If you are, give it some hearts, tap it up on Instagram, thumbs up on Facebook, heart it on, I think you have thumbs up and heart on Facebook. So do both of those. Give it a thumbs up on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We do these every Friday. I have about maybe 20 more minutes and for this live stream. So if you guys have questions, be sure to put them in here, and I will try to get to as many as I can in the time we have remaining for today. All right. Okay. I see a lot of like reverse dieting questions. I think that's just because reverse dieting is a concept that a lot of people aren't familiar with, and it's something that's somewhat newer way of thinking about things. And really, the goal is to keep your metabolism in a good, healthy place and to be able to recover that metabolism after a diet. A lot of people diet, really crash their metabolism, and then don't give their metabolism time to kind of come back to a normal level. And let's say you do a crash diet, your metabolism tanks, then you go back to just eating whatever you want. You're going to put on body fat rather quickly because your metabolism is pretty suppressed. Then most people, their next thought is, hey, I want to lose this weight I just put back on. So then they're trying to diet with a suppressed metabolism, which is going to be even harder. So really, reverse dieting, it's really just like a good thing to do. It's a responsible way to diet and come out of a diet. And so kind of breaks that yo-yo dieting cycle of where you crash diet, gain weight, crash diet. But every time you diet, it's going to get harder and harder and harder if you don't allow time for your metabolism to recover. So hopefully you guys are doing reverse diets and you are incorporating them and they're helping you out. And hopefully Carbon is making it easy for you guys to do them as well. I keep getting an error message when trying to validate my account. Message is blocking my view on the check-in page. So if you have a Hotmail email, for some reason, our email system does not send to Hotmail. Hotmail's like spam or something. It's just very stupid, so it's blocking it. My guess is you might have a Hotmail email. So what you need to do is reach out to us at support, and what we can do is we can manually verify your account for you so that the thing's off your screen. So yeah, reach out to us at support@joincarbon.com. We can get you taken care of. Should we weigh out our creatine or just using the scoop good enough? It depends what the scoop is. If it's a scoop that gives you anywhere from 2 to 5 grams of creatine, I would say the scoop is good enough. You don't need to be anal about weighing out your creatine. Just throw a scoop in there. But if it's like a very large scoop that maybe is giving you 8 grams of creatine, then maybe I would either find a different scoop or whatever. But I think the place you want to be with creatine is anywhere in the range of like 2 to 5 grams per day. So no need to weigh it out excessively, but make sure you're getting in that range. Will the app work for menopausal women? Yes, absolutely. So the only thing that's different is your calorie needs might be a little bit different, but the app is going to adjust to make up the difference and find exactly where you need to be eating to lose weight. So regardless of menopause and regardless of your activity level, the app is going to find where you need to eat to make progress that you have set in the app. So yes, it will work for menopause. All right, great question. I may have missed the start. When is the best time to start a reverse diet? Best time to start is after a diet. So that's typically when you want a reverse diet, is after a fat loss phase. And so, yeah, that is the best time to start a reverse diet. Another time when to start a reverse diet is if you have a long history of yo-yo dieting and your metabolism is pretty suppressed. You may want to consider a reverse diet. Or you have a really long fat loss phase that you want to do and you want to make sure that your metabolism is in a really good place before you start that, then maybe you want to do a reverse diet. All right. Using a scale that also measures body fat, weight goes down, but body fat doesn't really move. Does this impact check-ins, or should I just track weight? So Brad, if your weight is going down and your body fat doesn't really move, so with the scale body fat measurements, they're what we call BIA, a BIA method, so bioelectrical impedance analysis. And what it's doing is testing the resistance within your body. So the amount of water that you currently have in your body is going to really dictate what number it spits out in terms of body fat. Looking at short-term changes in that number from those scales is not going to be accurate at all. So it's really hard to say what's going on over the short term with your body fat. I notice the same thing, like my body fat kind of stays at a number for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, I see like a big drop on it. And so you can't really put too much stock in that number. I wouldn't worry about it. Now, whether to put it into the app, I would, if you're weighing yourself multiple times per week, I would definitely put that information in, because the app is also going to look at your average kind of body fat change over time. So if you give it that data, it's going to look at that and also take that into account. So yeah, I think the more data you give the app, the better your recommendations are going to be. So it doesn't hurt to put that in there, and don't be too like fixated on that body fat number though. All right. Speaking of reverse, how long can you reverse diet for? Well, I mean, you could reverse diet for the rest of your life if you wanted to. You could keep increasing calories and just keep gaining weight if you want. But I think what dictates the length of your reverse is how content you are with your current maintenance calories, your current body composition. It's all kind of like a balancing act of where you're most content, where you're most comfortable being. A lot of people can reverse diet for quite a while without noticing any weight gain. Some people notice weight gain like right off the bat of reverse diet, but most people are able to reverse diet for a good amount of time before they start seeing that weight gain. And it's only towards the end of the reverse where they start seeing the weight kind of more linearly pack on. But I would say you probably want to commit to a 12-week or more reverse diet. Anything shorter, you're not really giving your body enough signal that it should speed up its metabolic rate. So I think the longer you can reverse, the more potential metabolic increases you will have. Thanks for the question, Misty. All right. Oh, another question from Misty. Can the app be used for postpartum women and breastfeeding and not exercising? How on earth are maintenance calories calculated in that scenario? Misty, it's really hard in that scenario. The app wasn't designed for breastfeeding or postpartum women. And from a legal standpoint, we can't necessarily recommend any specific things in that area. But what I will say is, regardless of what you're doing, the app is going to kind of make up the difference and figure out where you need to be. So if you have something like breastfeeding that is burning some calories, the app is going to be able to not directly like know that you're doing that, but it's going to be able to pick that up based on your weight changes and where you're currently eating with your calories. So in any scenario, the app is really going to still find where you need to be eating for the progress rate that you're after. So yeah, like there was a question about menopause women, like and now postpartum breastfeeding. Like there's so many scenarios where people think they're super unique in their needs, where the app is still going to work just fine. So the app, like I said, makes up kind of the difference of what you're doing. So no matter what you're doing, over time, the app is going to find where you need to be. Now, changing things really drastically week to week, like your activity level, for example, is not going to be a good idea. Like if you have crazy high activity week and then you're completely sedentary the next week, these things are going to really affect the accuracy of the app. And that comes back to like the overall importance of consistency around everything. Like the more consistency you can have in your diet and your training and your activity level, the better off your progress is going to be and the more predictable your progress is going to be. So I think the focus should always be on consistency and getting to that point where you're consistent in these variables, because it's going to only benefit you over the long term. When you say a 12-week reverse diet, does that include a fat loss stage? No, Misty, that would be the reverse diet phase after the diet. So a good rule of thumb is how much ever time you've spent dieting in a fat loss phase, you probably want to spend directly proportionate same amount of time on the other side as a reverse diet. Sometimes you can do less, but generally speaking, if you have a 12-week diet, you maybe want to do a 12-week reverse to reverse you out of that and hopefully get your metabolism back to where it was, but without adding all that extra body fat back on. So if you're doing, it's going to take many people time of dieting, reverse dieting, reverse dieting, but over time, you're going to notice the trend is going in the direction that you want to go in. So it's not as easy as like, I'm going to do one fat loss phase, get to my goal weight, reverse diet, everything's going to be amazing. That doesn't usually work out in practice. Most of the time, it's multiple dieting cycles with reverse dieting, just back and forth over time to get you to the place that you want to be at. And then once you reach that kind of long-term place you want to be at, then it's a lot easier to maintain that. Never counted macros. Will I have a problem starting with carbon? So it doesn't hold your hand too much on the process of learning how to track macros, but if you are a self-starter, if you are willing to do some research in the area of tracking macros and willing to give it a try, carbon will work great for you, but you need to be able to commit to learning how to count macros and learning how to do it correctly. One resource that is super beneficial for a lot of people is our Facebook group. Actually, there's many people that start carbon that don't have a ton of experience in tracking macros, but they join the Facebook group. Everybody is very, very helpful in the Facebook group and encourage newcomers and help people when they have questions about tracking. So I would say if you're, like I said, if you're a self-starter, I would give carbon a try and join the Facebook group and see if you jive well with the approach. All right. I'm scanning a lot of products in Australia, but a lot of them don't come up, but come up in MyFitnessPal. Any plans to increase the database or use a different different thing? Mikey, you need to first confirm that your device location or your device location region is set up for Australia. There's sometimes where people's phones are set up as a US phone, and when your phone is set up as a US phone and you're in Australia, it's actually going to be looking in the US food database. So that might be some of the reasons why you're not seeing some of the products come up. I found mostly all the foods that I scan come up. So that might be your issue there. I would first confirm that. And if that is not the issue, if your device location region is Australia and you're still having issues with finding foods, we are sorry, but we are first and foremost a nutrition coaching app, not a tracking app. We included the food tracker as just literally a convenience way for you to track your macros, to use Carbon Diet Coach, but you can certainly use MyFitnessPal as a tracker if you find more of the foods and find it easier to track in that. And then use Carbon as the coach where it adjusts your macros, looks at the progress that you're making, and gives you recommendations. So you could use both of them together. You can't do, with MyFitnessPal, you can't do what Carbon does on the coaching side and the macro adjustment side. But with Carbon, you can track foods like you can in MyFitnessPal. We don't like to necessarily be directly compared to MyFitnessPal just because we are a nutrition coaching app first and foremost. But yeah, so I would check into that. Hopefully that resolves your issues with being able to find foods. Let's see. Great questions. I have a few more minutes, so I'll probably take one or two more questions here. So put your best questions in on Facebook, on YouTube, on Instagram. Give me your best questions, and we will finish it off for today's live stream. Appreciate all you guys here. We still got a good amount of people on the live stream. Hanging strong. We're going 57 minutes strong here. If you guys enjoy this, like I said, give it hearts, give it thumbs up, give it all the love. That helps get it out there. And if you want to learn more about Carbon, join the Facebook group. We have a very active Facebook group, very supportive Facebook group. So do that. We do these live streams every Friday to help you guys out, answer your questions about the app. All right. Just got the app. Very nice. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. All right. Any more questions, guys? You got any more? There's a few older ones, but they're very long. Like they're cut off, so I can't really answer those. If your BIA scale shows daily percent fat fluctuations correlating with weight, is that likely that it's fake / not using BIA but using an equation only? So if it's tied to your weight somehow, they are using some kind of equation. If it's not tied to your weight, it's independent, then it'll be a BIA. So BIA, I mentioned it earlier in the stream, but BIA is bioelectrical impedance analysis, and it basically sends an electrical signal that you can't feel, but it sends it through your body. So if you're using one of the scales where you step on it with your feet, it's sending the electrical signal up your leg and down your other leg, and it kind of completes this circle in the device, and then it estimates your body fat based on how quickly it goes. So it measures the resistance within your body, and the more body fat you have, the slower it will move. And so typically muscle is very hydrated. There's a lot of water concentrated in muscle. So it literally just checks basically your body water and then kind of estimates your body fat from that. And that has nothing to do with your weight. So it's not tied with your weight value if it's using BIA. Your scale's such a scam. I mean, it probably is. There's a lot of garbage kind of scales out there. I personally have, I use a Nokia Body Plus scale. I really like it just because of the simplicity. I literally just step on it each morning, and it takes my body fat, takes my weight, and then it saves that information for me so I can reference it at the end of the week when I check in with Carbon. And the number's not super accurate, I know, but like I'm looking at that trend. And when I test my body fat and weight every single day, I can be a lot more confident in the trend changes over time. So that's what I would do. Let's look at that. Does Carbon use the body fat in any of its calculations? Body fat uses body fat for setting your protein target. So we want to set protein based on your lean body mass. And so it uses your body fat percentage to figure out your lean body mass. Another place where it uses it is in check-ins. If you enter body fat into the app regularly, it's going to use that in your check-ins just to give it more data. So let's say you don't lose enough weight one week, but your body fat percentage changes significantly. It would sense that and it wouldn't cut your calories. If you didn't put body fat into the app, there would be the potential that it would cut your calories because it doesn't have a way to gauge the progress that you're making. So if you have body fat, you lose a significant amount, and it could affect the outcome of your adjustments. So I usually recommend if you're able to test body fat often and regularly, it's a good idea to enter it into the app. The more information you give the app, the better it will be. All right, that's it for today's live stream, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are the best. If you guys are interested in learning more about Carbon, you can go to joincarbon.com. Visit our website there. We have a help center where you can see a ton of videos and you can look at what the features of the app are. If you guys are already subscribed to Carbon, appreciate you very much. You guys are the best. And we do these live streams every Friday, so be sure to tune in. And next week, I believe it's Holly is doing it. So we kind of rotate, me, Lane, Holly, and then all three of us, we kind of rotate every Friday. So be sure to tune in next Friday. And I hope everybody has an amazing weekend and an amazing week ahead. See you guys.